Last year, I picked a bunch of tomatoes and I didn't have time to get to them, so I threw them in the freezer. I threw a bunch of bags in there, and it's middle of winter and we're running out of salsa already, so I decided to make some salsa. Okay, I've got a bag full of tomatoes that I froze because I didn't have time to do them, and now it's middle of winter and I'm going to make salsa. Some of them you'll notice still have their tips on it, but that's fine. I'm just going to throw them in my colander. Whoops. And I'm just going to take hot water and I'm just going to rinse them. Shake them up, make sure I try to get as much of them rinsed off as I can. And they're starting to get slightly thawed on the edges. So that's what I want. And I'm going to take this over, and then I will just take my knife and chop the edges off and they'll slip right out. I'm just chopping off the tip where the green is, squeezing gently, and it just slipping right out. Hey, I think this is so much easier than all that boiling you have to do to slice it out. So I'm thinking anytime I'm making something that needs them skinned, no more boiling in water for hours, just messing with all that stuff with me. I'm freezing them, chopping the tips, and squirting them out. I've got the tomatoes. I've filled this up with tomatoes. It's my Ninja, and I'm blending it. As you can see, I didn't get it all done, so you have to open it up, poke around in there a little bit. Sometimes just the bottom tomatoes blend up, the top ones don't want to, so I'll scrape the bottom ones out and do the other ones a little bit later. But here we go. As you can see, the top ones, sometimes I'll just pull those out, scrape out the bottom part, and then put those back in. Next time, maybe putting less in might help. Yeah, I've got to play around with it, see what works best. I'm not a fan of big chunks, so what I do is I take my onions and my peppers, everything, I throw them in my Ninja, blend them all up. Working on the tomatoes. I'll blend them up, throw them in the pan. I've added blended onions in there and the yellow peppers. I'm making a double batch today. Then I'll do my jalapeno peppers. I add vinegar, salt, and garlic. And my husband says it's pretty good. I'm going to put some vinegar in, 2 to 3 ounces, and I doubled it, so I guess 4 to 6 ounces is what I need. And I'm using sea salt here. Mix those in. I'm going to turn that one down, it's boiling. But I want them boiled down. So, I did the garlic. I used about 1 whole garlic, a little bit bigger than this. Now I'm going to do the jalapeno peppers. Now you want to use gloves when you use jalapenos because you know they have that oil stuff that could really burn you if you don't, especially if you rub your eye after you touch a jalapeno. Not good. Anyway, so I had frozen these, just threw them in the freezer, washed them, threw them in the freezer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop off the stem. Now, if you want to have a jalapeno that's a hot jalapeno, you leave the seeds and the innards, all that stuff in. If you don't want it to be a hot jalapeno, well, then you take out the seeds in the center part. You just take this part out. And since it's frozen, it looks like I'm going to have to do a little more surgery on it. Well, if you're doing it when they're thawed, this is really easy to get out. So this part will make it so it's not so hot. And I'm just going to chop it up a little bit here, throw it in my blender. So if you have red jalapenos, they're sweeter. These here are going to be hotter too. So my recipe calls for about a cup and a half, and I have doubling it, so I need about 3 cups. And so I don't know if I have enough to do 3 cups, so I'm going to leave a lot of seeds in mine this time. I do my jalapenos at the last thing I do, so that when I'm done, I can just throw it into the dishwasher, rinse it out, throw it in the dishwasher, and then you don't have to worry about having that oily residue on things while you're still trying to blend other things. And once I get these all chopped up and thrown in there, I will blend blend them up and put them in my salsa, and I'll let that simmer down a little bit farther so it gets into the thicker consistency of what you want your salsa to be. Okay, got my salsa done. It's been boiled for hours. It's the consistency that I like to have for my salsa. So now I'm ready to can it. Now what you need to can, you need the rings. You need canning jars. This is, what's this thing called? It's to pick up the jars and put the jars into the water so you don't burn your fingers. Hot water, you don't want it boiling. And you don't want to, when you put them in the pan, you don't want to stack them on top of each other so they stick. I'll get my canning jar. I like to put on something because when you put the hot salsa into the jar, it will start getting warm. So I'm going to start. You need a funnel. Put it in there. And just start ladling it in there. You want to put the salsa into the jar. I go to about the first ring. This is a little measuring tool to see how it's about a quarter from the top. No, a half inch from the top. Once you get it filled up, you need to get a wet towel, damp towel. Make sure this is clean because you want a nice seal. So I'll wipe the lid off. Then I will go grab with my little tool a lid from the hot water. Place it down on top. Then you'll need to put one of your rings on. Then you tighten it down so it's nice and snug. This is my hot water bath. I will have it start placing the jars in there. And then I will fill it up with the rest of my salsa. Then we'll turn it up high so it starts boiling, and I'll put the lid on it, and I will process it for, I have to look it up, but I think it's 20 minutes. I will look at that. So I use the Ball Blue Book of Preserving to find out information for how long and how big headspace. Headspace is a quarter. I looked that up and it wasn't a half, it's a quarter space that you can leave. And it says to process salsa for 15 minutes. So when I put all the cans in there and it gets to a boil, then once it gets to a boil, then you'll start the timing from there for 15 minutes. Now I like doing the blending on my salsa. It makes a really nice consistency. It's not too chunky, it's not real runny. You boil it for an hour or two, so all that liquidy, extra liquid will boil off, and then it'll be a nice consistency. Work really good on chips. Alright, I've got all my jars filled up, and I only got 7 pints. My canner holds 8, and so I had filled up an empty jar and stuck in the center. You want to put empty jars in to hold the places so that the jars don't fall over while it's boiling. You want the water to be covering the lids by 1 to 2 inches, and since mine's not there yet, I'm going to add some hot water to it. Water, it's just barely covering them, so I'll have to add some more. I still need to add some more. I'm going to put my lid on, and then once it starts boiling, I'll start timing, and 15 minutes of boiling, and there'll be time to turn it off and let them take them out and let them cool. Alright, it's been processing for 15 minutes. Just took the lid off. I'm going to pull up the tray. Just dump the water off the top. And then we're going to set them all over here to cool. as they're cooling, you will be hearing a popping sound that is the lid sealing down. Once they have cooled for about 24 hours, you can take the rings off and then put them in your pantry and get them out whenever you feel like eating salsa. After they sit here for a while, they need to sit for 24 hours. Then you take the rings off, put the date on them, put it in your pantry, and then they're ready for you to enjoy whenever you want. We already heard one pop. This one has been sucked down now. It's hot, it's hot. The others, as you notice, is still kind of bubbled on top. But as they cool, the lids will be pulled down and sealed.